And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of our Friday broadcast here on LIB Radio. We call this Making Money Fridays. And today we're going to engage in a very exciting dialogue. I hope you find it to be as exciting as I do. We're going to be looking at what is happening with Africa Rising. We're going to change the narrative from Africa Rising to the African future, because we say this future has arrived, and there is great reason for us to be very, very excited about the destiny that is immediately ahead of us. We call this the African future. Today's date is Friday, the 17th of January, 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. Live and direct, fired up and ready to go. Let's talk about this future, this destiny that has got me, and I hope many more of you, so wonderfully excited. Today, the dialogue from Africa Rising to the African future. Fridays here on LIB Radio are dedicated to transforming our financial future. Today, we began a new dialogue about Africa's destiny. And when I talk about Africa, I'm reminded of those words by the group Black Uhuru, the whole world's Africa, only divided by imaginary borders, man-made borders. Borders you can see on a map, but you can't necessarily see these borders when you are in the real world. The whole world's Africa. Today we began a new dialogue about Africa's destiny. For the last decade, beginning in 2015, we celebrated the phenomena that we call Africa Rising. For so many reasons, we have validated that this trend is real and will transform the destiny of the world. Now we move to the next phase of this narrative and articulate how we can all collaborate and cooperate to create this empowered African sovereign and sustainable future, the African future. And bear with me, excuse me for sipping. The tea is quite hot this morning. And I have done quite a bit of research and writing and artwork and photoshopping and promoting the show, and especially spent quite a bit of time, well, actually writing. I've started a new book. We'll talk more about the book shortly. I have to finish the other book due February 1st. But here, let me just give you an introduction to where I'm at today. And really, we're going to be focusing on the African Union's Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. But here's what I've been writing today, just putting this together. And again, starting to lay out the format for a new book, picking titles and subtitles. All of that is critically necessary. Some of the themes and ideas that came across my desk, I'm just going to share them with you. I want you to feel the passion, to feel the excitement about what is ahead, as I do. For right now, tentatively, the book is The African Future, Empowering a United and Prosperous Africa for Future Generations. I considered a lot of different themes for the book, and some of these themes are going to show up as chapters. Unity in our diversity, building a strong and unified Africa. Empowered governance, that's a very important chapter of the book. The rise of the African Union leadership, that's going to be a primary focus for today's conversation. Bridging gaps, Africa's transformation through modern infrastructure. We've often referred to a phenomenon known as leapfrogging. Well, that's where that fits in. Modern infrastructure. Africa actually gets a jump on its development because it started so late. A lot of the tools necessary for this infrastructure development are more recently created. Education for all, very important, cultivating Africa's brightest minds and leaders, especially improving, upgrading, and taking full advantage of girls' and women's education. Absolutely, no doubt whatsoever. And a bunch of other themes. Security, peace, very important themes. Africa's role and influence in world economics, world affairs, world governments, world security. Had the world listened to Africa, then these conflicts in Ukraine, the Russo-Ukraine war, these conflicts, this ongoing genocide in Palestine and around the whole of Western Asia, the conflict in the Sudan, which is the world's worst conflict zone right now, Sudan. But it doesn't seem to make it to the headline news for the United States. And we know why. This book will explain how we must take responsibility. We can't rely on those who have historically abused us at all levels. We can't rely on them to suddenly, just out of nowhere, start being fair and equitable. No, we're going to have to earn their respect. We will be talking again about game theory in this book. But we're going to be talking about game theory was laid out in great detail in the recent book entitled Survival Strategies for World Wars 5 and 6, or Disaster Preparedness, I should say, for World Wars 5 and 6. To talk about surviving and preparedness for a disaster, we had to include a chapter, an extensive chapter, on game theory. But in this next book, we're going to take game theory to the next level. And we're going to play the game out. We're going to play the game out. Maybe I'll have a contest using AI. You remember that movie that came out in I think it came out in the 80s, maybe the early 90s, called War Games, where a youngster who liked to play video war games actually accidentally or tapped into Pentagon computers and was playing war games with Pentagon computers in a nuclear war format. And the computer thought this was not a simulation. The computer thought this was the real deal. That was the theme of the movie. It was a little cheesy, but we understand and appreciate the theme and what the writers of the movie were trying to tell the world. We've got a lot of work to catch up on. So this is what we're going to be doing over the course of this book. May take 30 days to write. This book may take 60 days to write. But this book will be part of the collection coming out as part of the 90 Days to Write and Publish Your Book course. This will be one of several books that I will have coming out during this 90-day period. You could have one book come out. If you hear something today that inspires you to say, I must be a part of this global leadership for the African future, then you may say, I can take my specialty, my life specialty, and put it in a book and put it out there to inform and instruct the next generation to how we are going to win, how we are going to win. I'm excited. You can tell. Let me go forward and share with you the introduction that I've been working on. This is a work in progress. I just have two chapters of this put together, the introduction, and then the AU Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. That's a separate chapter. Through extensive research and data analysis, I have concluded that the African future is bright and promising. This future is a beacon of hope and inspiration for the world. With a unified vision and collective determination, the inhabitants of the African continent, bear with me, the inhabitants of the African continent stand at the cusp of a new era. This book will reveal that this emergent destiny is defined by 1. Continental unity. 2. An emergent, no, let me get this right. Number 1, continental unity. This new era will be defined by number 2, an empowered and competent African Union. Central governance. Number 3, well-developed infrastructure. Number 4, a first-class education system. Number 5, security. And number 6, respect from the global community. In this future, a continental unity is not just an optimistic concept or dream, but a lived reality confirmed by multiple overlapping structures that have stood the test of time. In this African future, national groups, and here, one second, let me get these things out of my head. Okay, in this African future, national groups, once fragmented by colonial borders, now embrace their shared history, culture, and destiny. A hallmark of the consequences of us resetting Africa's natural ethnic borders and turning those borders into bridges, unifying bridges. Okay, going forward, the African Union, and here, bear with me, I'm going to try to stop formatting while I'm writing. The African Union, a symbol of this unity, plays a pivotal role in fostering cooperation, solidarity, and mutual support among member states. Borders are no longer constricting barriers, but bridges that connect diverse ethnic groups and cultures, creating a tapestry of unity in diversity. This unity is the foundation upon which Africa builds its future, empowering the continent to address common challenges and seize collective opportunities. At the heart of this transformation is the African Union's central governance, which has evolved into a model of competence and effectiveness. The African Union's leadership, guided by visionary principles and democratic values, drives the continent's development agenda with unwavering commitment. And I'm going to take this word democratic out. Word democratic has been hijacked by Western Christianity, Christian imperialists, and I'm going to call it representative values. Okay, so let me reread that sentence. The African Union's leadership, guided by visionary principles and representative values, drives the continent's development agenda with unwavering commitment. Uh, One second, I did a correction there and it flipped me to another page. Here we go. Let me do it again. Sorry about that. Unwavering commitment. There we are. Let me reread the sentence. The AU leadership, guided by visionary principles and representative values, drives the continent's development agenda with unwavering commitment. Transparent and accountable institutions ensure that policies are implemented efficiently, benefiting all citizens. The AU's central governance coordinates efforts to promote peace, security, and prosperity, making Africa a shining example of good governance and responsible leadership. And again, had the world listened to African Union, had it listened to African countries, the conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza would have been settled. Africans came in fairly early in both conflicts with a strategic plan to settle these conflicts. But the Western governments didn't want that. The Western governments want Israel to be a terror across Western Asia, in Yemen, in Iran, in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Palestine, in Jordan, and encroaching upon Egypt now with this concept called Greater Israel. Don't let the news media fool you. They have not dropped that Zionist vision of Greater Israel. We talked about that in the book Disaster Preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6. So you'll understand that when you read it in that chapter. The continent's infrastructure, once underdeveloped, now stands as a testament to Africa's progress. Modern highways, railways, and ports connect cities and regions, facilitating trade and movement. And we're talking about ports and air and seaports. Connect cities and regions, facilitating trade and movement. Cutting-edge technology and renewable energy solutions power African cities, making them hubs of innovation and sustainability. Well-developed infrastructure not only boosts economic growth, but also improves the quality of life for millions, creating a vibrant and dynamic society. And it not only boosts extraordinary GDP growth, which is higher than the world average, but also improves the quality of life for millions, creating a vibrant and dynamic society. Education is the cornerstone of Africa's future, and the continent boasts a first-class education system that's coming into place. All of this coming into place. Why? Because you and I have made a commitment to join. So boosts a first-class education system that nurtures talent and fosters innovation. From primary schools to universities, educational institutions provide quality learning experiences, equipping young Africans with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in a globalized world. Investment in education drives research and development, fueling Africa's technological advancements and creative industries. The continent's youth, empowered by education, become leaders and change makers, driving Africa's renaissance. I hope you're getting excited. I am scheduled to be on a multinational television channel broadcasting from Accra, Ghana. This Monday morning, it'll be 9 a.m. their time. It'll be 1 a.m. Monday morning here where I am. I sent them these themes and some images in the recent work I've done, and they got very excited. Even now, talking beyond this initial program to a series of programs, including conferences on the continent. So here's what I'm going to ask you. And I know Brother Amos just sent me a note this morning. He and I are, when it comes to Ghana, we're standing shoulder to shoulder, representing a united front. We need 10 more people. We need 10 more people. And they do exist, but we got to have 10 more people to saying, I am on this. I am on the front line. Put me in the game, coach. We've got to have a win. I need 10 more people to step forward. Kwame Reggie, I know you and your brother are going to be with us. I feel your spirit. I feel your vibe. I feel your absolute commitment, not only to Ghana, your absolute commitment, not only to Pan-Africanism, but your absolute commitment to excellence in everything that you touch. So that's 2 more people. We need women. Yes, we do. We have some brilliant sisters, brilliant queen mothers, brilliant women amongst us who can go before a large group of powerful and well-educated leaders and say, here is an avenue, here is a pathway, here is an innovation that is within our grasp that absolutely feeds beyond a shadow of a doubt our commitment to sovereign, sustainable Pan-African development. So I know I'm a little off, but this is just the speed at which this stuff is coming over me at this particular point. I see you in the house for Africa One. Will you be on the mission with us? I know for a fact at least 1, 2, 3 other Pan-Africans that are part of my circle of embrace that live in the foggy land. I would love to see you and everyone else stand up with this, for this commitment, for us to take a primary responsibility for Africa rising to the African future. So let us get this party started. Now bear with me for some odd reason. Okay, I see. Everything is in a kind of slip time matrix, but we are live. This party started. And I just had to double check that all of the feeds are working just fine. For if you are on our You Now family, it's lovely to have you with us. You check in wherever you are. For Africa One is checked in. And you know something? I've got one of my biggest Friday audiences. This dialogue here today deserves the best that we can come up with for this year, for this decade. We have to seize this decade, 2025. Now we have 4 years of a 10-year decade completed. Pan-Africans, we have got to seize this decade. And you're watching me doing it right now in real time. He takes a sip. Watching us do this in real time. Not only do your best, do better than you've ever done before, and launch the best that you will continue to do of this brand new life. Let's go forward. I'm going to continue. Make sure you hit the like button, everybody out there. Let the algorithms know that you appreciate, love what you are hearing today. You're hearing it from me in real time. I'm going to pick it up where I am. We're talking about investment in education drives research and development. fueling Africa's technological advancements and creative industries. The continent's youth, empowered by education, become leaders and change makers, driving Africa's renaissance. And that's one of the things I'm so very proud of, is that my connection with African youth and development of youth, investing in youth, has been very consistent. That was one of the magic principles that I committed to in my first trip, after my first trip to Africa, when I traveled to Egypt in 2006 with Dr. Clinton Crawford and his beautiful wife, Reba. They inspired me to want to do something more than just go to Africa as a tourist and spend money and help the local artisans in Egypt. Most of the money you spend there is for the benefit of the Arabs who dominate the economy. We did go to Aswan, and we did go to one African village where we participated, but it wasn't enough. I'll tell that story. Maybe I'll tell that story in the book, because that's a very significant story about how I found my commitment to go above and beyond for Africa. Don't be ashamed if you go to Africa as a tourist, but be aware, be alert that when we, people of African heritage from the diaspora, when we go to Egypt, the Egyptians are so very happy to see us, because they know that we spend disproportionately compared to the other tourists that come to Africa from UK, from Germany, from France, that come to Egypt. They know that African Americans spend disproportionately more money. But let's be clear, for the overwhelming majority of that consumer spending, tourist spending in Egypt, goes into the coffers of the Arabs who dominate the economy. That's a whole nother conversation, one that should be included in the book. The same is true for much of our tourism money spent in Ghana, where the Lebanese merchants have set up the ability to capture a disproportionate share of our tourist consumption. Going forward, in this future, we're talking about Africa rising is now moving to the African future. In this future, Africa enjoys security and respect from the world community of nations. Peace and stability prevail, underpinned by strong regional security frameworks and proactive conflict resolution mechanisms. And Africa's conflict resolution mechanisms, they do exist. We saw them come to the forefront in Ukraine and Palestine. Unfortunately, they were rejected by the world. The Russians gave the African peace delegation a modicum of respect. But then again, the Russians had a need that wasn't satisfied by the African peace delegation, especially when the Ukrainians, encouraged by their American backers, just outright rejected the African input toward a peace resolution in Ukraine. And that would have happened 2 years ago, people. It coulda, woulda, shoulda. But Africans are going to have to do a better job at peace resolution, conflict resolution in Africa. And unless and until the AU can come up with a solution to Sudan, the world is not going to take the African Union's peace proposals seriously. We've got to get this peace in Sudan. We've got to get this peace in the Lake Chad region. We've got to get this peace along the borders of the former unified state called Libya. Now Libya is fragmented and barely out of the category of a failed state. And therefore the jihadist movement basically emerges from the destruction of Libya under the Obama administration. Africa's contributions to global peacekeeping and humanitarian efforts earn the continent admiration and respect on the international stage. And we can see African contribution towards peace and stability, attempting to resolve the warlords situation that has dominated Haiti, the Haitian people, and their economy for too long. We got to understand the background forces that are involved there. We're talking about that's a global conflict. We could say that that situation in Haiti fits under World War VI. I'm going to bypass that for right now, but I think I should include much more dialogue on the roots of the Haitian conflict. It's not just World War VI, it's capitalist exploitive war. It is Cold War. It is the most fundamental war, that of global racist white supremacy, war, and conflict. Yes, that's true. There's a whole bunch of things that tie all of these together. I hope you find this to be informative. With its rich cultural heritage, economic potential, and commitment to sustainable development, Africa is respected, an influential player in global affairs, shaping the world's future alongside other nations. I am describing the African future. Now, the African future is both on the horizon and it's also here. The past is reflected in the present. The present sets the stage for the future. The African future I am describing is the Africa that we want, which is the current program of Agenda 2063 of the African Union. We're going to get there. I think we're going to get there in today's conversation. If not, it'll be in our next conversation on this subject. As Africa strides confidently into the future, its unity, governance, infrastructure, education, and global standing inspire hope and pride. Hope and pride. This will allow many more of the 300 million people of African heritage living outside the continent. 300 million. Large population, over 100,000 people of African heritage living in Brazil. Over 60,000 people of African heritage living in the United States. You have significant African population in Colombia, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, Panama, Honduras, Belize, Costa Rica, Mexico, Canada, England, France. A couple of us living in Germany. During World War II, the Nazis, the fascists, kind of wiped out the mixed race African German population. Yes, they did. Only just a handful of them lived to tell their story of surviving that. But we are a global population. We are African heritage. In Australia, the black fellows, we claim them. That's we family. In New Guinea, yes, we claim them, which is parts of Indonesia. There are large African ethnic groups on the Indian continent. Yes, that's true. Indian subcontinent, one might say. Large numbers of African people across the Pacific Islands. Melanesia, Polynesia. If we understand what melanin is, Melanesia means the black folks of the Pacific Islands, including New Guinea, Papua New Guinea. Just go and look at the people. You know that is your family. Now we have to create a mechanism by which the majority of 300 million Africans living outside of the continent bind completely in development, sovereign, sustainable development with 1.45, could be more than that. I think it's 1.4 1.45 to 1.55 billion Africans on the continent. In the world ometer, we do track these numbers. Let me just real quickly pull that up. World ometer, Africa, Worldometer Africa, and I will tell you in real time there is a population counter Worldometer, the population of Africa 2025, as of today, as of right now, 1,534,129,000 and counting, adding one birth every 1 second. That's the population of Africa. And that's pretty doggone awesome. So up to 300 million, along with 1.535 billion, 1.534 billion, that makes us the largest ethnic group on earth. That's true. We are the largest ethnic group on earth. One might argue that, well, you have Chinese and multiple populations. They are essentially the same people. And I'm not going to take that away from you. If you go to Malaysia, the Malay Peninsula, if you go to places like Singapore, go to Taiwan, those are Chinese people. And that is to be appreciated. Let's go forward. As Africa strides confidently in the future, its unity, governance, infrastructure, education, and global standing inspire hope and pride. The African dream is not just a vision, it's a reality, a testament to the continent's resilience, strength, and unwavering spirit. So now let's take some time. First of all, I need to know if there's anybody out here who's with me today and you have spoken up, shared your voice, then it's only fit that I should acknowledge you. And Powell says, what's in your hands, black man? What's in your hands, African woman? Okay, I got it back up and running just right. Let me confirm this. For you, our listening audience, we got to know that you are in sync with us just the way it's supposed to be. This is a great conversation. This is going to be an incredible book. But let me tell you, this last two books that I put out, Living Superfood Solutions and the book Disaster Preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6, both were really quite phenomenal books. And yeah, there is an issue. I'm going to fix it real quickly. And just let me do this real quickly. I have to relaunch this page for our You Now family. And the Rumble, my Rumble stream is where the problem is right now. We're going to do the best we can. Let me make sure that it is up and running on the other pages. And oh, we are on YouTube again today. Don't get your hopes don't get your hopes up too high, because YouTube is quite quirky. Don't get your hopes. And YouTube is quite quirky, and you know that whole issue of censoring certain voices is still going to be a problem, no doubt. It is what it is. They do what they do. They created this platform not to see you and I take power from them. They created this platform to seize their power and do what they do. And so what I'm going to do right now, it appears that the stream going out is problematic. It just could be this computer is locked up. That's probably what it is. Let me just listen real quickly. And I'm not hearing any voice, so unless and until we hear something different, for my you now family, yeah, the computer locked up. That's what the deal is. So I'll have to do a cold reboot on this computer, restart it, and hopefully we'll get it right back up here in just a couple of minutes. So other than that, we do have an ongoing stream, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with the ongoing stream while I reboot this computer in the background. And all the more reason, people, we have to take seriously this mission. These computers that I'm using are old. Some of them were used in the first place, and they are old. And I do the best that I can to do the best that I can. But at the same time, sometimes I did my best, but I guess my best just quite wasn't good enough. Okay, so this one's relaunching again. And let me go back now. Let's switch and let's talk about the African Union. I pulled up this document, Agenda 2063. I went to the AU website, and they had one other page talking about Agenda 2063, aspirations, goals, and priorities. And this becomes a very, very important conversation for us to have. So it has these three different categories where the list of actions, doable actions, is there and is present for you and I to build upon. Now, understanding that we are building upon these principles, let's go into it. Let's get this party started. Go live here. We're relaunching this page again. Just real quick launch, and I'll clean it up a little bit later. That we're going to go live. I'm going to share the page, and in 10 seconds, our You Now family will be reconnected with our live broadcast today. And I thank you all for being patient, and we are back again live with you. African Union, Agenda 2063. Aspirations, goals, and priorities. There are 7 key aspirations underlying this vision. They are, number 1, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And I always add to this phrase, sustainable development, sovereign and sustainable development, meaning that sovereign element that must be self-governing and independent and not being undermined by adversaries from outside the body of those governed. So that's the first aspiration, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable, sovereign, sustainable development. Number two of the aspirations, an integrated continent, politically united and based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the vision of African Renaissance. Very important. Renaissance, the raising from the dust, the rebirth, the regeneration. All very important. Aspiration number 3, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. And as you heard me say a little bit earlier, I'm removing this word democracy from my conversation, and I'm going to talk about inclusivity, which to me transcends the word democracy, because the word democracy has been corrupted by the American model, which is not a democracy. It's a plutocracy. It's an aristocracy. It's a meritocracy. It is a kakistocracy, governance by the least qualified. Example of which, who's going to be inaugurated for the second time on Monday? Yeah, kakistocracy. Aspiration number 4, a peaceful and secure Africa. Aspiration number 5, Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. Very, very important. Where do we get this whole cultural thing together? Number 6, an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by African people, especially its women and youth, and caring for children. And aspiration, number 7. These aspirations are like the basic underlying principles. Aspiration number 7, an Africa as a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player and partner. Global player reminds us of game theory. And partner. Game theory. If you don't already know about it, please catch up. Because only when all of the players on the field know that they are in a contest with expected winner and an expected loser, people do not get on the soccer pitch to tie. They get on the soccer pitch to win. And we're going to have to keep that in mind. So those are the 7 fundamental aspirations. Next, we're going to talk about 20 goals. So we have aspirations, quantity of 7. Goals, the quantity of 20. And priorities. And I don't know what the number of priorities is. I can tell you the priorities real fast because I did have them enumerated in the document. Or did I have them enumerated? I have them bullet pointed. I'll count them later. Okay, so we've gotten through the aspirations. Now we are in the goals. The goals include, number 1, a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being for all citizens. Goal number 2. Now, goal number 1, America could aspire for that. America had that, not for all citizens, during the time when America kind of had its peak. It's a global empirical power. African people and indigenous First Nations peoples in America did not all have access to full citizenship and human rights and respect. And that's still the case today. Goals for the Africa that we want. Number 2, well-educated citizens and skills revolution, underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. STI. Science, technology, and innovation. You'll hear STI-driven development in many of these points of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Number 3 of the goals, healthy and well-nourished citizens. That's a very strong component of what I aim to take to Africa, that we are really going to be strict on. No compromise. We're going to have to get rid of a lot of the products that are invading Africa from these Western corporations, such as your buckets of chicken and your burgers and your French fries and all, and the soda, sugar. We're going to go to war against that. That is not the Africa that we want. Number 4 of the goals, transformed economies. Number 5, modern agriculture for increased productivity and production. For increase and production yield, let's say production yield, because productivity and production are the same word. So production yield per acre. Very important. We're on our goals. We're up to number 6. Blue/ocean economy for accelerated economic growth. Yes, Africa is now in a phase of building major ports, including airports and seaports. Unfortunately, disproportionately, those seaports are being built with Western or Chinese financing for the specific purpose to better facilitate export of raw resources from the continent. We're going to have to redirect that to where we have the smelting taking place on the continent, where we have industrial manufacturing taking place on the continent, and then what we export are competitively priced finished products. That's the Africa that we want. Number 7, environmentally sustainable and climate resilient economies and communities. A lot of infrastructure to build, where we have in many countries, you have massive floods during one time of the year, and then what's it called when you have no water? Desertification and droughts in the same country at another time of the year. Well, that's because we're going to have to do a better job of reservoir management, including underwater aquifers. You know, there's a huge underwater aquifer under Libya. Muammar Gaddafi's government was just on the verge of being able to tap this huge Northern African underwater aquifer when his government was destroyed by the lies of Hillary Clinton Benghazi, who just got a national award from Joe Biden for her tenure as Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton, yeah, they reward their own for doing their devious work. Can we do better than that? Yes, but not if we just follow fashion monkey. Number 8, a united Africa, federal or confederate. The confederations are now starting to move into place. We see the first of the African confederations, not the first. The first African confederation was Tanganyika and Zanzibar, the modern day state of Tanzania. The next one that I'm aware of is the Sahel Confederation, or the Confederation of Sahel States, CSS. And that nation was born July 6, 2024, where 3 of the 5 alliance of Sahel States nations formed a confederation. They are now one united nation, but it's confederated, meaning they still have their individual governments, state governments, but the plan is to merge them all together until they form a republic of Sahel states. So Africa's now largest nation is no longer Sudan. Sudan was not the largest nation once it split into 2. Then became Algeria, the largest geographical nation on the African continent, is now surpassed by the landmass of the Confederation of Sahel States. We should be celebrating these things, but many of us don't even know that it has taken place, and an even greater number don't know why it is important to the development of the entire world. We're up to number 9 of the 20 goals. Number 9, continental financial and monetary institutions are established and functional. These are the 20 goals of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Are these goals? We have aspirations, goals. These are goals. And then we're going to get to priority areas. Number 10, world-class infrastructure crisscrosses Africa. And we can see that right now. Exciting developments taking place with African air travel and air shared air facilities. Ethiopia Airlines has become Africa's premier air carrier, but also now revived airlines, Ghana Airlines, Nigerian Airlines, Kenyan Airlines, South African Airlines. All of these major air carriers are reviving themselves, and many of them are putting new airports into place. I haven't been to Ghana since they completed the new airport, but from my understanding, it is pretty doggone amazing and highly capable of moving large numbers of Africans from Ghana into other countries across the continent and across the world. Number 11, democratic values, let's say inclusive governance values, practices, universal principles of human rights, justice, and the rule of law entrenched. And where it says democratic, I'm going to write inclusive governance. Again, you heard me say it earlier. I am discarding this word democracy because it's been hijacked and it no longer has any substantial meaning from my perspective. Number 12, capable institutions and transformative leadership in place. Awesome, awesome. And we see this rising rapidly, especially when it comes to competent leadership. Number 13, peace, security, and stability is preserved. It's achieved and then preserved. Number 14, a stable and peaceful Africa. Number 15, a fully functional and operational APSA. And what is APSA? I have to look that one up real quickly. Copy, cut and paste. And APSA, what is governed APSA. What is it? It's coming up. And APSA stands for the African Governance Architecture as a decision of the 15th Ordinary Session of the African Union Heads of State. So what is APSA? Emerged from the desire of African leaders as an operational structure to execute decisions based on the authority of the African Union's Constitution. So I'm opening this. I want to be real clear when I'm talking about these, what I am talking about, and the computers acting very slow. The major successes and challenges of the African Peace and Security Architecture, APSA. So again, that's the African, let me copy, cut and paste that so I don't have to look it up again. African Peace and Security Architecture. Good. Number 16, African cultural renaissance is preeminent. Yes. It's not only preeminent, it's one of the major hallmarks of Africa's economic interface, cultural social interface to the world. Culture is a powerful theme for which, since the dawn of human civilization, Africa has been a major contributor to culture and civilization. Now we have to give this a renaissance. Number 17, full gender equality in all spheres of life. And the way that that's worded, I'm problematic with. When they're talking about full equality, there are certain things that women do that men cannot do. And men can't strive to be equal in doing those type of things. And there are certain things that men do and can do that women cannot do at an equal basis. I disagree that women should be fighting in combat unless you're at the very end of the civilization sustainability. Then, like what happened with Queen Ya Asantewaa in the Ghana Empire, what happened with Queen Nzinga in ancient Angola, and what happened in Angola with the MPLA, that at a certain point, and with Cuba, at a certain point, the women had to take up arms because the essential survival of the nation was just so high. But when women take up arms, the nation's fertility is disrupted, interrupted, and hijacked. And that just quite simply cannot sustain any great nation. We can see in America right now, the feminists and their subculture, the Glibbit community, are demanding that women be allowed to fight in combat. That's a really, really bad demand. I know there's a conflict or the controversy right now with Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense, whose name I can't remember, and his previous statements that he did not believe women should be fighting in combat. Well, you know something? I agree with him. I don't believe that young men should fight in combat. Personally, if it were up to me, the only ones who would fight in combat are the ones who want war. Anybody who doesn't want war should take the Muhammad Ali stance and say my spirituality, my intellect does not allow me to point guns at other people who have done nothing to interrupt the development of my life, whereas I got to come over here, come to America and fight for the ability to just make a living. So personally, gender equality has an asterisk next to it. Number 18, engaged and empowered youth and children. Yes, 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 yes. Number 19, Africa is a major partner in global affairs and peaceful coexistence. Yes, undeniably so. Yes, Africa deserves 2 seats on the UN Security Council, if not 5 seats. The 5 regional economic groups, RECs, regional economic communities of the African continent, I believe each of them is powerful enough to have a seat on the UN Security Council. If we're talking about a global population of African people of 1.75, 1.74 billion Africans, and the global population is 8.1 billion, then that's more than 1/4 of the entire planet. So yes, Africa deserves multiple seats on the UN Security Council, beyond a question. I'll put that argument in the book. And number 20, Africa takes full responsibility for financing her development. One of the reasons Africa is going to be able to do this is because Africa will finally get free and fair exchange for its natural resources. And it's been exploited for so long, including the brain drain. That's going to stop in our time, in our generation. I'm going to be an instrument of this transformation. Agenda 2063. 2063 is not so far away. 2063 is not so far away. That's what, 35 years? How many years is that away? 38 years or so? Less than that. 63 minus 25. Yeah, that's 38 years away. That's not that far away. Are we preparing to receive this Africa 2063, the Africa that we want? Are we solid enough to prepare for 38 years in the future, which means for most of us is getting our children and grandchildren involved in our major plans. Yes, we should be doing this. Next is priority areas. I've got a few more minutes for today's broadcast. Let me double check and make sure my audience is still with me today. It's great to be with you. And I was reading from a document. This document that we were reading from is entitled Major Successes and Challenges of African Peace and Security. This is from the African Union, and we do celebrate and commemorate these type of critical documents that we have access to, and that's just how we do it. So enough respect to each and every one of you, and let us continue. That document was from the ARC journals, and let me see, just one second, I'll get this. ARC journals, and I'll put this link up for those of you who want to follow along, listen along, read along. I'll put this link up, and on my Facebook page, I'm also going to put it up in the Rumble family. I see you in the house, Brother Kwame. I called you out earlier, Lion, and you know it was all good. He says, Ma'at, Baba Kidi, and Global LB family, make sure everyone hits the like button. He says, further, Baba Kidi, can you explain what the train in the African future photo represents? Yeah, that represents cutting edge transportation infrastructure. And when we're talking about the history of Africa from the Berlin Conference forward, one of the hallmarks of the dominance of African economy was that the European built railroads on the African continent had different gauges, meaning rail width. So therefore, you would load up a cargo train and boxcars with natural resources in one country in Africa. But if you wanted to move those either through another country or to another country, they had to be unloaded and reloaded because the rail cars could not travel from country to country. That was a major disruption. And now, since probably about the turn of the century, they have been building what are called SGRs, standard gauge railroads. I was able to take a trip on one of the first completed standard gauge railroad lines from Nairobi, Kenya to the Indian Ocean coast city of Mombasa. And across Eastern Africa, especially across the East African community, is where the building of the standard gauge railroads is taking place at the most rapid rate. I did put up a map. We did a program on standard gauge railways, and I know it's probably, how long ago was that? It's probably in the Rumble catalog. And again, it was about standard gauge railways. And I put up a map of these lines that were being completed. It's pretty impressive. It's got a long way to go. And between here and 2063, the SGR development is going to be very, very important. So the train stands for, the train stands for Standard Gauge Railroad, G-A-U-G-E, Railroad, and modern infrastructure. Now, that's also, bear with me, infrastructure. That is inclusive of the African Continental AFRCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. AFCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area. And that is so important. Why am I having such a hard time writing AFCFTA? So that's what the train represents in the image for the book cover. And thank you. That's a very good question. And as I mentioned earlier on the show, I don't know whether you were tuned in at that point, I will be on television live Monday morning in Accra, and it's going to be beamed across the continent on Dimension. I think it's called Dimension TV. I'll make sure you get a link to where you'll be able to see it. I doubt if you're going to want to be up at, what it be, 3 or 4 in the morning. It'll be 4 in the morning your time, 1 o'clock in the morning my time when I'll be live with them. But they're very excited about the dialogues that you and I and others in our inner circle have been having. And I'm putting together a collective, a group. I want 12 people in this delegation. 12 people in this delegation to start interfacing with these leadership groups, private and some of them public, leadership groups that are all about sovereign, sustainable, Pan-African development. And Ghana is one of the places, as you very well know, that is best embraced outreach to the global diaspora and said, come home. We are your people. You are our family. Let's build a future together. And I'm really excited about this. Again, that'll be Monday. What's the date on Monday? Today's the 17, 18, 19, 20. Monday the 20th. I'll be on live. Is that the 19th or 20th? It's the 20th, yes. No, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, be the 20th. I'll be live on in Accra, Ghana. So on that, he said, oh, I wrote that. The train stands for standard gauge railroads and modern infrastructure, inclusive of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Very important. I'm going to go do this list of priorities from the African Union and just real quickly, just read through this list of priorities and then wrap it up for today. We're talking about, let's go to this chapter. The African Union Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. We talked about the 7 aspirations. We talked about the 20 goals, and now priority areas. Those of you who are listening, you do something that will contribute to one or multiple of these priority areas. This is why I'm encouraging our authors, our writers, our leaders, our wise and esteemed elders to start putting books out. People, please, these books become hard copy instructions. They're not going to be getting it from TikTok. Come on, people. Grow up. Grow into. Assume responsibility. Priority areas include incomes, jobs, decent work, poverty, inequality, and hunger solutions. Priority areas include social security and protection of the elders, including persons with disabilities. Priority areas include modern and livable habitats and basic quality services. Include education and STI, which stands for Science, Technology, Innovation, Skills-Driven Revolution. Priorities include health and nutrition. Priorities include sustainable and inclusive economic growth. STI-driven manufacturing, industrialization, and value addition. Economic diversification and resilience. Priorities include hospitality and tourism, wellness, economy. Wellness, economic growth. You know, there's $3.1 trillion coming into the world wellness economy between 2023 and 2028. $3.1 trillion. How much of that $3.1 trillion do we as Africans aim to claim? That's in this book, The Global Wellness Future. Let's spark a village. Priorities include agricultural productivity and production. You know about my book. All of you do know about my book, The Blackest Soil Africa Can Feed the World. Marine resources and energy. Ports, operations, and marine transport. Sustainable natural resource management and biodiversity conservation. Priorities include sustainable consumption and production patterns. We've got to make what we consume. Don't be like the African Americans who consume $9 worth of goods and services while the whole of our businesses produce $1 of products and services. We consume $9 while making $1. Oops, that's absolutely unsustainable. 8-to-1 ratio. Priorities include water security. Priorities include climate resilience and natural disasters preparedness and prevention. Renewable energy. And renewable energy, we laid it like grow up real quick. Microgrids. Look at what they're doing in India with privately owned renewable energy microgrids. Why are we not? What's up with us? Why are we not taking care of what we got to take care of? Priorities include framework and institutions for a united Africa. Financial and monetary institutions. FinTech. Where are our FinTech people? Are they talking about building systems, algorithms, programs, apps for FinTech? Or are you just talking about Bitcoin? Oh, people. Come on. Get America out of your out of your brain. Get these bent priorities out of our brain. Are we talking about FinTech or Bitcoin? We got to prioritize which is our future. Priorities include communications and infrastructure connectivity, including democracy. I don't like that word. I'm going to put in parentheses inclusive and good governance. Human rights, justice, and the rule of law, the consistent rule of law. Consistent. Because you can have the rule of law that's inconsistent and it doesn't really necessarily empower the people. Priorities include institutions and leadership, participatory development and local governance, maintenance and preservation of peace and security. Priorities include institutional structure for AU instruments on peace and security. Include fully operational and functional APSA pillars. APSA again stands for progress and sustainability. What we say it was earlier, we did cover that a little bit earlier. APSA, bear with me, I've got to get this right. APSA stands for, did I put it in here? It's here on my desktop. APS stands for African Peace and Security Architecture. Very important that we have that language in. I think I did copy it. I just didn't paste it. And that stands for Peace and Security Architecture. Very important. So we're still talking about priorities. Priorities include values and ideals of Pan-Africanism, cultural values, and African Renaissance, cultural heritage, creative arts and businesses, women and girls empowerment, violence and discrimination against women and girls must be eliminated, especially in those countries that have adopted Arabist Islam. Arabist Islam is not African Islam. There are two distinct value systems, just as Europeanized Christianity is not African indigenous Christianity. No, it's not. Let's be real clear. It's one of the papers I'm writing right now that will be included in this book. Is that for African Christians to have integrity, they going to have to reject Europeanized Christianity, which has all kind of deviations in it, and get forward to the indigenous African Christianity that existed before the Romans and the Greeks even learned how to read. Goals, priorities I should say, include youth empowerment and children's development, especially maternal and infant mortality must be prioritized. Prioritization. Very, very important. African peace, Africa's place in global affairs. Priorities include partnerships that are sovereign, sustainable, and fair. And let me put that one in here. Sovereign, sustainable, and fair. Priorities include African capital market. Yes, let's capitalize Africa's market so that we can do what the Western nations have done so successfully, and that use debt-based financing that does not suck the life out of our industrialization and development. We have to finance our own debt. Fiscal system and public sector revenues. We're going to have to override the informal economies, and so that all economic activity generates sustainability, we have to pay taxes on the business we do with each other. And those taxes must support infrastructure development that facilitates higher levels of industrial engagement and economic engagement. And last of our priorities, development assistance. And development assistance from the African Development Bank, AFDB. There's where we're going to seek our development assistance, and we can probably, in the short term, rely on the BRICS Development Bank. Let me say AFDB and plus the BRICS Development Bank. Very, very important. So, we've been talking today about goals and priorities, moving that will allow us to move from Africa Rising, the dialogue. We have celebrated this dialogue for 10 years now here on LIB Radio. In 2015, we started. I learned about in January, might have been February, about the idea of Africa Rising. It had been floating around at a low level since 2011. And in 2015, since 2015, I have done everything I can, including the book by the very same name, which all of you have. All of you have these two books. I know you do, because if you don't, it's evil. The books, Africa Rising Dawn is Breaking Over Africa. And the other book, which you all have, I know you do, because both of these books are very inexpensive. The book called The New Scramble for Africa. Because you all have these books, I feel confident that all of us can build together, grow together, develop together. We have the same fundamental kind of, or the same foundation for projecting our knowledge and wisdom forward. Africa Rising, Dawn is Breaking Over Africa, and The New Scramble for Africa. Here we go. And The New Scramble for Africa. Africa Rising and The New Scramble. If you don't already have them, or The Global Wellness Future, or Disaster Preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6, then come on, catch up. You can do it. Get the books mentioned today. Mentioned today at http www.kidi.biz/CRP 2012. And let's get started. Again, Kwame Reggie, I know you are with us on this. And I know your brother, Nana Kwame, is with us as well. Brother Dr. Amasis Ma'at, I know we have you in our camp. And there are a number of others, in Queen Mother Nana Okosombo. I know we are going to do great things. Let us assemble this delegation. Let us get ready to interface, work side by side, shoulder to shoulder, along with our Global Africa family. Let's find and work with, collaborate with our brothers and sisters in Central America, in South America, across North America, across Europe, across UK. UK is technically Europe, but they say they're not Europe, not in the European Union. You know what I'm talking about. Let's work with our brothers and sisters across the Ocean Pacific Island nations, the Melanesian nations. That's our family. We claim our family when we're in our right mind. So if you want to help, I need you to buy the books. You won't know what to do. You won't get excited about what you can do unless you truly know, which is why I'm writing what will be my 16th book. I believe number 16 on Pan-African sovereign development. I mentioned the Global Wellness Future, Africa Rising, The New Scramble for Africa. I did mention The Blackest Soil. There is the book Forged by Fire, Post-COVID African Healthcare and Sovereign Development. There are a number of books, including Paradigm Shift, which was actually written for Africans in the USA, but it had as its fundamental component was that we will not survive unless and until we bide with Africans. Pan-Africanism. It's not a matter of Pan-Africanism or perish. That's a given. It's a matter of Pan-Africanism and prospering. We want to prosper. We're committed to prosper. We are absolutely committed to prospering. That's what you've been tuned into today. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow, the 18th, our book writers course begins. It's not too late. It is not too late for you to be a part of it. You're going to get your book out on April the 18th, 2025. Your book is going to be sent to the printer. All you have to do is just follow the instructions. You already have the ideas. You already have the vision. You already know that somewhere you harbor in your heart a fundamental commitment to be a progressive leader for a transformed global future. It's in your heart. Now, put it in your hands. When I grab these books off the shelf, I have people over at my house frequently. And when I pull these books off the shelf, I can point to specific pages, to very specific strategic plans for sustainable development. That's why I write the books. That's why I wrote the book, Seven Steps. No, it was the subtitle. It was called The Road to Power, 7 Steps to an African Global Order. I wrote that book in 1999. That was a transformative, that was a crossroads. And since crossing that bridge, it unleashed me at a whole new level. And I have 35 books since then. And we just keep getting better at it, keep getting stronger. I want to teach you how to do this as well. Join us. Text me. I want to write. I want to write and publish. I want to write. Text this to 702-580-0662. And let's get this party started. The class starts tomorrow, the 18th. The 90 days to publish begins tomorrow. The publication due date, April 18. Can we get 6 people? Can we get 12 people to all simultaneously put our books out at that same time and commit to all 12 of us? Let's help each other get these books into the marketplace. Let's help get these books into libraries and universities. The man's not standing over us with his boot on our neck, pressing our face into the dirt. He doesn't have to do that. He taught us to do that to ourselves and to call his name out when we're doing that to ourselves. You've been tuned into LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. This is the People's Academy. This is the people's voice. And I am honored and proud to speak for my people. I am so honored and proud that many of you listen and take seriously what it is that we do, who we do it with, and why it is so absolutely necessary that we continue to elevate who we are and what we do. On that note, I want to thank you. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a wonderful day. I look forward to being with you, Kwame Reggie, and other members of our class, the Stem Cell Revolution, or Rejuvenation, I should say. That's the name of the class, the Stem Cell Revolution, Rejuvenation. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be having our second to the last class. It's going to be awesome. 56 days, Stem Cell Rejuvenation Protocol. Don't you feel great? And you know, 1 week ago this morning, I threw my back out. It was terrible. It was really painful. This week, done. Finished. In 7 days, a crippling pinched nerve in the back, gone. That's the stem cell revolution, people. 7 days. I woke up this morning and I did my full regimen. 220 sit-ups, 220 core reps of 2 other exercises, and feeling great about it. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you on your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Peace, y'all.